Hey guys, it's Julie from Z Square Crafts. Today I'm on the TheAlleyWayStamps YouTube channel sharing a card that I created using the fabulous Halloween set called Ghoul-Friend. So to start, I used the digital SVG files to cut out my Frankenstein, my mummy, and then that little zombie or Frankenstein head. And I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp the coordinating stamps onto each of those cut files. I have a silhouette portrait machine, so I just cut those files onto my portrait from the Silhouette Studio. If you own TheAlleyWayStamps, you should definitely check out their digital cut files because it makes it super easy to create little character cards like I'm doing today. So I am doing a Frankenstein, a mummy, and then that head. I think it's a Frankenstein head, but I'm not exactly sure. If you know, maybe you can let me know in the comments below. And I plan to use my Spectrum Noir alcohol marker, so I am using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm going to start by coloring in my mummy, and for the coloring today I'm going to skip around a little bit. So to begin, I took my lightest warm gray marker, which is the BG1, and again these are Spectrum Noir markers, and I just went over the edges, or like the areas where it would be darkest on the mummy bandages. In fact, you can't even really see it in the video, but I think the final picture at the end you'll be able to see it better. I colored the skin of all of my little critters today green, so I'm just going to show it once. And I also used a very light pink for the eyes. I wanted them to kind of have like red or bloodshot eyes, but I didn't want it to be over the top, so I used that very subtle pink to color in all of the eyes. For the little Frankenstein monster, I'm going to also use the greens on his hands and neck area, just because I wanted all of his skin to be green. So I am using CG1 and CG2 to color in all of my green faces. And you saw at the beginning there that I already did my mummy. I'll show you this one, but I did it the same for all of them. And I apologize if the video is a little bright. My craft desk is right next to a very large window, so some days when I'm crafting I get a lot of light, and it's just kind of hard to avoid because the blinds don't always cover it up. So if you have any questions about what you're seeing, just let me know. Also, if you'd like to know any of the exact colors that I've used for coloring these little critters, I always list the colors on my blog, so there'll be a link for that in the YouTube description below, or if you're on my blog now, then you're in the right place and you can just keep scrolling down. I decided to color the jacket of the zombie purple, and I actually consulted some pictures on Google so that I would know how I wanted to color him. I wanted to go with nice Halloween colors, so the picture that I chose as reference was perfect to do his jacket in purple, his shirt in yellow, and then his pants I will do to match the purple, kind of like he's wearing a old style purple suit. There's also a little patch on his pants, and I will color that yellow. I'm doing really simple coloring today, where I lay down my lightest color and then I go back in with a second color to add a little bit of shading and dimension, and in some cases I don't even bother blending it out. These images are fairly small, especially the clothing. There's not a whole lot of room to do shading, so I went very simple, and because I was doing 3 images, I felt like that was the best way to go. For the shoes, I'm going to use 2 colors of cool gray markers, and I will just create kind of a little gradient. These are going to be like dark gray, not quite black shoes. If you wanted to do the black, I would recommend using a similar method so that you don't make them too flat looking. If you just use a black marker, then you'll end up with a fairly flat look, but if you use 2 dark grays, then you'll get a more dimensional look. I colored the hair using the same colors as the shoes, the cool grays, and then I set those aside while I worked on my card base. I wanted to create a kind of swirly sky, using Perfect Pearls. I wasn't actually sure if this would work when I started filming. I'd never done anything like this before, so I was very happy with the results. To begin, I masked off an area on the front of my A2 size card base using Post-it tape. And then I smushed down my Versamark ink right onto that card base. And then I will go ahead and use my Perfect Purple Pearls. The color is called Grape Fizz. And I will just work that Perfect Pearls powder into the Versamark ink on the front. I then went in with a tissue, or you could even use like a dry baby wipe, to create a kind of swirly motion, and this is where my sky really comes in. You can see there that you get kind of a messy swirly effect, so I thought that would be kind of cool for a spooky Halloween card. In order to make sure that your Perfect Pearls don't move or rub off, make sure to set that with water or hairspray. I just use my mini mister there. To add a couple final details to the card, I'm going to use the dash line that comes in the Ghoul-Friend stamp set. I'm going to ink that up with my same black Memento ink, and I will just stamp that around the edges of the card. You can see there that I'm using a clear acrylic ruler to do this. When I'm using longer stamps, I really like to use this method because I personally don't have a really long acrylic block, so this works just perfectly. I always apply the stamp to the underside of the ruler where there's a little lip, so that when I want to lift it up, it's easy. It's not right flat against the paper. I will also stamp the caution greeting that comes in the Ghoul-Friend stamp set. I'm using the Memento Tuxedo Black ink again so that all of my blacks match, and you can see I inked that up and then stamped it off to the side, and the reason for doing that is because it's the first time I've used that stamp, so I wanted to make sure to get a really clear impression after I have put all the effort into my background. I did stamp this directly onto that Perfect Pearls background, and I had absolutely no trouble at all. Next, I'm going to use some glue dots to adhere down my little characters. I'm going to also use my tiny attacher to add a little bit of detail. I thought that it would be kind of cool to have these characters stapled onto the card. I thought that it would add a little bit to the Halloween feel of it. So I'm just using those little teeny tiny staples that come in that really cool tiny attacher stapler rather. If all you had was a regular stapler, definitely go nuts. I think that you could still achieve a very similar look. I just have this tool, so I decided to use it. I'm stapling on sort of to make sure that I can see the staples. So for instance, on that mummy's arm behind the monster, Frankenstein's monster, I didn't put a staple there just because I figured it would waste, but I wanted to make sure that you would be able to see them very clearly. So that finishes my card for today. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and maybe you will try using these digital SVG files as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you back here again soon. Bye!